Hi, this is Chris Deason, EDL 854, Module 16, case study. Um, Problem identification and analysis. In this case study, just kind of an overview, the situation takes place in a small school, George Washington Middle School. Student population is declining. Parent involvement is very strong, though. Daniel Stevens is the principal's name. Mrs. Alice Bowman is the main parent volunteer in this community. Her daughter is an all-state cheerleader at the middle school, and her name is Lucy, and she has been selected to participate in a parade in New York. Mrs. Bowman needs funds to send her daughter on this trip, and she approaches the school with a plan for those funds, and Mr. Stevens denies those funds. At the next home game, where Mrs. Bowman is working the gate and concession area, a $50 bill, it comes up missing from the money, and so then the investigation will follow. What do we know? Mrs. Bowman was denied the funds to send her daughter to New York. Mrs. Bowman was working the concession and entrance at the last home basketball game. A fan by the name of Mr. Dumas paid his entry fee with a $50 bill. We know this because he talked to the principal specifically about it that night. After the game, there was no $50 bill in the money bag. Mrs. Bowman left a note saying tickets 78 to 88 had been destroyed, and that Mrs. Bowman is a trusted volunteer at the school. We know all those things. What else? What do we need to know? Did Mrs. Bowman recall getting a $50 bill as entry payment? What happened to tickets 78 to 88? Which, by the way, that's 11 tickets, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Was anyone else in the ticket booth and or concession stand that night? Did anyone see anything? Did Mrs. Bowman put the $50 bill for somewhere for security reasons because it was such a big bill? Has Mrs. Bowman ever had a problem before? And no one has mentioned that the money and missing 11 tickets do not add up. They said that the amount of tickets missing was 10, that equaled the $50 at $5 a ticket, but actually there were 11 tickets missing. So that doesn't make sense. Proposed plan of action: meet with all parties involved, meet with Mrs. Bowman, any other workers, Mr. Dumas, take notes, take detailed notes of all these things, then meet with local law enforcement. Also your superintendent, kind of lay out everything for the soup so they know exactly what happened. Once we've determined where the money went, put a plan in place to make sure it doesn't happen again and issue sanctions. If Mrs. Bowman is guilty and it is a first offense, she has to pay back the money. She's not allowed to work future events. If she is guilty and it's not a first offense, I would turn it over to law enforcement. Let them handle it. I mean, it's theft. It's pretty simple. If she is not guilty, we tighten the rules for money taking. Let's say we can't figure out what happened. Two people always counting money. The principal must be present. If you need to wait for him or her because they're out supervising, quick text on their cell phone or quick call to them, hey, swing by the ticket booth or concession stand as soon as you're available, need you to verify this amount. And anytime there's any kind of destroyed tickets or anything like that, we need to keep track of those. Put them in a plastic bag, Ziploc it up so that they can be looked at. Going forward, resolving the issue, there are always two people counting money and tickets, like we mentioned. Meet with the administrative team to solidify your new system. Keep all tickets after an event. Two people count the money and the tickets. Have a site supervisor present. If your principal is not that site supervisor, that's fine. Whoever the site supervisor is, have them present when the tickets and money are counted. Take the infographic we created earlier in this class. Make sure it's posted in the concession stand. Make sure it's posted in the ticket booth. It has all the specific rules regarding what happens, how to take money, how to keep track of tickets, how to fill out the event sheet so that you know what you had for startup cash, what you had at the end of the night, all that stuff. Have site supervisor meet with all workers prior to the start of an event, especially if it's your first event working. You really need to meet with the site supervisor. My first thought in debriefing and reflecting on this was that Mrs. Bowman was mad because the school would not help pay for her daughter's trip to New York, so she began to skim money off the top of the event money. My second thought was, this doesn't really make sense. She's going to take $50 when she needs $798. She's going to take money from the last home event when there's not another home event coming up where she can continue to add. If she took 50 and then there were 10 more home events and she could take 50 at every one, that makes a little bit more sense. But doesn't make too much sense to me. Thirdly, I think Mrs. Bowman has earned the trust of the school district over the years, and I think they need to be very careful to follow proper procedures, make sure that they have probable cause for anything that they do, and remember, she has earned a due process, and she's innocent until proven guilty. Component 1, the building leader shows clear and convincing evidence that he or she is effectively managing the school by completing a full investigation. I think the building leader owes that to all parties involved, involving law enforcement when necessary, meeting with the administrative team, keeping everybody on board, keeping everybody well informed, and taking a deep look at the current policy and being open to changes, like we talked about earlier. Component 2, how is the school leader promoting social learning of every student? Well, the money taken at the gate is valuable to the school. Those funds are needed for our students so that our students can have better quality things. Maybe even enlist your students, maybe not knowingly, but put them in charge of a project where they use technology to possibly initiate a class project where they come up with a more advanced way to take tickets, something that would reduce errors. Use this as an educational possibility for students. Again, they don't need to know the details of what happened. They don't even need to know that anything happened, but good opportunity. Take care of this issue in an ethical way, and that sets a great example for your student body. As a building leader, I'll promote student academic learning by taking the funds collected and making sure they're benefiting students, always. Students always have to come first. Make sure to always put those students first in everything that I do as a building leader. Taking funds to brand our building. If we could brand our building and make students feel better about our school, it helps their confidence. This is going to only enhance their education. It's going to make them feel better about walking in that building every day. It's going to make more confident students sitting in that classroom, and that in turn is going to increase their education. But as a whole, it's going to increase what we do as a school as far as educating kids. So that is my Module 16 case study. Thank you very much.